There is nothing wrong with your browser. Do not attempt to refresh the page. We are now controlling all that you see and hear. We control the horizontal and the vertical. We can delude you with 1,000 videos or expand one single frame to crystal clarity and beyond. We can shape your vision to anything our imagination can design. We shall control all that you perceive until we see fit to release you. You are about to experience the depths of depravity that reach from the folly of human pursuits to the deputy of common sense. Please stand by. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and demons of stupidity. It is I, Aleister Crowley III, Deputy of Common Sense and Wrecker of Feminist Ideas. Today, we will be looking at a very special little snowflake by the name of Hannah Cranston. No, she's not related to the guy who played Walter White. What? Do you think that simply because they're both white and they have the same last name, they're automatically related? Racist. But I digress. We will watch as Hannah explains to her guest star, Brooke, why she is wrong to believe that not all men are misogynistic assholes. Let's dive right into this horrible shit, shall we?
Hey guys, welcome to Think Tank. Hannah and Brooke here.
Hey there.
I'm gonna do something a little different on the show today.
Okay.
I read an article that changed my perception about a word and a concept that I've been using a lot. And so I am actually going to self-criticize today based off this article that I read because it changed my opinion. It changed the way that I looked at this thing called toxic masculinity. This man wrote this article for Refinery 29, and it was really powerful the way that he talked about men and what men have been taught, right, from the young age. And so this is not blaming men for anybody. It's actually trying to bring men in and to be like, hey, this was not your fault that this is what you've been taught, that this is how you grew up and this is what you've been told makes a man. Okay, so men have been taught sometimes unintentionally that women are objects and property and have less value than men. That collective socialization explains why everyone can finish this sentence. Come on, son, you have to throw harder than that. You throw like a...
Wait just a fucking minute. Who teaches boys that women are objects? Genghis Khan? Attila the Hun? Because it certainly wasn't my parents. I was taught to respect women and treat them as equals. I don't objectify anybody. Why don't you come back here after your 50th time watching Magic Mike and tell us all about that big, bad objectification? Oh, sorry, sweetheart. I'm mansplaining, aren't I? I'll go sit silently in the evil misogynist corner and beg the great goddess Gloria Steinem for forgiveness. Please forgive me. I have sinned against the great goddess. I have sinned against feminism. Don't mind me. Carry on.
Yeah, it explains why far too often men are silent when a friend or coworker makes a demeaning joke or harasses a woman in the street. If we question another man's behavior toward a woman, we know our man card will be challenged. Rose before, right? So we all know where to fill in this sentence.
Wait, do people actually remain silent when women are harassed on the street? Or are those more delusional thoughts from Fantasy Island? Man, I wish I could go to Fantasy Island. Imagine a place where I can main as Ivy from Soul Calibur and not get screeched about for encouraging unrealistic beauty standards. Give me a fucking break. I just want to play a damn video game. Leave me the hell alone. And the only people I've heard say bros before hoes, unironically, are comedy movie frat boys and Barney Stinson. Literally, no one says that phrase unironically in real life. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't. That's the kind of thing you expect to hear Van Wilder say or something. It's ridiculous and absurd. Tell me, Hannah, did you eat paint chips as a child or something? Because you seem a few pieces short of a puzzle. But carry on, I'm obviously just being a stupid man again.
Now, this ideology has been really reinforced by society, it's been reinforced by pop culture, it's been reinforced by the media of how we expect boys to really fit in with their manhood, right? Now, we label this kind of behavior as toxic masculinity. I have labeled it before as toxic masculinity. But the problem is that gives the majority of men an out.
Pop culture isn't without its problems. That's quite apparent. Just ask those creepers who want to fuck cartoon horses, or those creepy assholes who draw underage anime girls and claim that they aren't pedophiles because no one was harmed. Bullshit. You're fucking pedophiles and you should be ashamed. Pop culture has its problems. That is certain. However, I've learned more good from pop culture than from anywhere else. Uncle Iroh taught me that I am the master of my own destiny. Master Oogway taught me to believe in others and most importantly in myself. Lelouch B. Britannia and Edward Elric taught me the true meaning of sacrifice. Goku taught me that hard work and perseverance will always triumph over raw talent. Batman taught me that justice is better than vengeance. Luke Skywalker taught me that saving someone is better than killing them. Darth Vader taught me that there's still good in people, even the most reprehensible people. All I have to do is look for it. Albus Dumbledore taught me that love is the most powerful of all magics. Gandalf taught me that small deeds by everyday folk are what keeps the darkness at bay. Wes Jansen taught me the importance of humor. Moggy Lou taught me that a world of agony may lie behind a smile and a cheerful laugh. Spider-Man taught me that with great power comes great responsibility. Charles Xavier taught me that fighting hate with hate just creates more hate. Xander Harris taught me that sometimes all it takes to save the world are 3 simple words. And Superman taught me that the greatest symbol you can create is one of hope. But please, by all means, tell me about the evils of pop culture. I'm sure you know best. After all, you have a vagina, and I don't. Do continue, though.
I wish they didn't pull you over to that side. I liked you how you were.
I know, but it gives the majority of men, and now this is actually a better way because men can be like, no, what I'm doing isn't toxic, right? That word is really powerful. What I'm doing isn't toxic. Like, I'm a good guy, right? I just yeah, he made a joke, but it wasn't me that made the joke, right? He said the demeaning thing. I didn't say the thing. I didn't contribute to that. What I'm doing is not toxic.
My God! A man made a joke about something that hurts your feelings? Call the police, the FBI, the National Guard, call Wonder Woman. Won't anyone save us from the creeping horror of comedy? Wait, doesn't Hannah Gatsby have a Netflix special where she does nothing but hate on men? So does that mean women can make offensive jokes too? We need a name for this phenomenon. How about toxic femininity? But you know what? I'm not offended. And do you know why? Because I'm not a fucking child who gets butthurt at everything that I disagree with. And before you go all, OMG, he's a bloody Trump supporter, burn the misogynist. I am not, nor have I ever been a Trump supporter. I think Trump has the brains of a common goldfish and won't make it to 2020. But Trump isn't a monster. He's an imbecile who has been elevated far above his normal station. America elected the village idiot as president. You want a monster? Look at Linda Sarsour. She unironically supports Sharia law and pals around with Louis Farrakhan, a radical Islamic preacher. Those are real monsters. They support tearing down everything we have built and replacing it with a caliphate. Why not focus on them instead of gamers and men that tell bad jokes? Hate speech doesn't exist. There is simply free speech. In addition, nobody has successfully killed an idea through violence, government censorship, and intimidation. Nobody in history has ever succeeded at that. I believe that we should deal with those we hate with open discourse. Expose bad ideas and bad people to the harsh light of rational debate, and let the bad ideas die of natural causes. Condemn those who advocate for censorship. Let those with bad ideas be hung by the gibbet of their own ignorance. But you won't do that, will you? Because then the bad ideas in your ideology would be at risk, and you can't have that. Now, can you? Feminists can't ever be wrong, can they? But by all means, continue metaphorically hanging yourself. It's quite entertaining.
Right? And so nobody thinks of their own mindset as toxic, right? I mean, we're all sort of like, no, we're doing better than that. We're not Harvey Weinstein, we're not raping people, I'm better than that, right? And that's a pretty tough pill to swallow, to admit that what you're doing is toxic, even for the most self-reflective person. So if we allow men to separate themselves by saying, I'm not that bad, look at him, that guy's the one who's toxic, we're missing the greatest potential for change, right? Toxicity also implies that this type of masculinity is innate to men.
Okay, fine, I'm cool, I'm fine.
What I got out of that is that every man who has ever done something bad is as bad as Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby. There is no room for nuance in feminism. There is no room for innocent and proven guilty. Feminists are judge, jury, and social executioner. You are Judge Dredd. You are the law. We must bow, scrape, and grovel before our almighty feminist overlords. Only by their supreme wisdom and grace can we pitiful men be saved. All hail the mighty matriarchy and their patron goddess, Gloria Steinem. Also, the fact that you think that all men are innately sexist, that we are all socialized to be that way, is not only insulting to men, but to our mothers, our sisters, our girlfriends, and our wives. Are you telling them that they socialized men to be sexist? Are you saying that you socialized your father to be this way? And that your mother and his mother did so too? I'm sure at this very moment your father is probably wishing he had pulled out. That is, if he was ever around. In fact, daddy issues is probably a big reason we're having this conversation in the first place. Now go get daddy another beer, would you? He needs it to endure your man-hating diatribe without going to get his belt.
And that's just not true, and I really believe that. I know people say that I'm man-hating. There are amazing men out there.
Absolutely.
There are amazing and incredible men out there. There are some that aren't. There are bad eggs that contribute to this toxic masculinity, and we need to remember that, right?
Finally, you said something I can agree with. It's a miracle. You're right. There are amazing men out there. My grandpa was one of them, my dad is one of them, and I like to think I am too. I'm sure you'd disagree, and that goes back to what I said earlier about rational discourse being the solution. If you have a problem with what I'm saying, then talk to me rationally about it. I'm open to discussion. I have no problem with it. Oh wait, you got fired, didn't you, Hannah? So I guess you can't debate me on Think Tank. But hey, you have as little to lose as I do at this point. Why not come on my channel? I'm open to having you on. We'll do a live stream. We'll talk things out. Doesn't that sound lovely?
I think that that's the problem. Like, those amazing men are not toxic. And so sometimes we allow people to hide from a label. And sometimes the label, when the label is that bad, you need to accept it and you need to take a look at yourself. Because as much as we can say, it's not your fault what you were taught, it is your fault what you do once you become an adult in this country. And when you're interacting with other people, I feel very strongly about that. And some of their behavior is toxic and they're only saying, well, I'm not toxic. Not because the word toxic gives them a cop out, because they are looking for any cop out, and because they are not taking any ounce of a look at themselves. Because those examples that you just called out, those are things that are easy for men who want to be better and want to treat women as equals.
Take out of their vernacular.
Absolutely easy. It's easy to see two men making an awful sexual comment about a coworker, and it's easy for another man to say, hey, that's inappropriate. Because if it were his wife, if it were his little sister, if it were his mother, he'd be quick to say it,
Yeah.
And so I don't, and he would know that behavior was toxic if they were talking about his mother. And so I think that we watched Paula Deen talk about how she refers to black people she didn't like as the N-word. And we allowed her to say, well, I'm not racist, because the word racist is people
hard
are really,
for people to swallow.
They would rather, they're more upset about being called racist than they are about looking at their own racist behavior. And a lot of people had to say, no, Paula Deen, you are racist. And if you'd like to change that, we're open to listening. But right now and before, you're racist.
Yeah.
And not right now, but in that moment, do you know what I mean? And I think that, no, we don't need to placate to bad men and say, it's not toxic. No, it is, and you are, and you need to, if you don't like the way that sounds, then change your behavior. But I'm not gonna change what I call it, because it's bad.
I agree with everything you just said, Brooke. You seem like an intelligent and reasonable person. What on earth are you doing palling around with this lunatic? And you're absolutely right. There are some rotten apples out there, and we should absolutely condemn their behavior. People like Dylan Roof, Bill Cosby, and Harvey Weinstein are some of the worst examples of modern day men. The difference between you and Hannah, and the reason I respect your opinion and not hers, is very simple. Hannah believes that because a minority of rotten apples exists, that must automatically mean that the whole tree is rotten. And the tree must therefore be chopped down and uprooted so it can be replaced with a new one. Well, you believe that the rotten apples are not representative of the tree as a whole, that there are good apples among the bad, and that saying we should sacrifice the entire tree to get rid of the small number of bad apples devalues the good apples that keep the tree alive. I like you, Brooke. Keep being what a feminist should be. Keep being what it used to stand for.
And you have the ability, and if it were something that affected you, you change it.
Well, I think what this article gets at, and where I align myself with this article, is the fact that we live, it's not always I mean, bear with me, bear with me for this, okay? So it's not always the men, I mean, men do toxic things, yes?
Not all, but yes.
Right, but they were brought up in the toxic culture. Like, all men have been socialized to view women as objects, the property of men, and less valuable than men. All men in our current society have been brought up by that. You cannot deny that.
No,
because the society, it's the media, and that is not men's fault for that.
But in adulthood, a lot of men have come out of that.
Exactly, and the outcomes of that collective socialization don't just manifest in men who behave badly, but it's also And those are the men that we can easily label toxic, right? It impacts all of us, and the idea of toxicity leaves too much room between us and them. So what we need to do is really, this is what we talk about a lot on the show, is raise our young boys differently, raise our young girls differently, and promote a healthy relationship between men and women, promote a healthy understanding of what it means to be a man, and remove that sort of like weird machismo, like I need a gun and I need to treat women like they're my hoes.
Excuse me, your ignorance has caused me to retreat into the uncomfortable corner.
A white woman explaining to a black woman what she should believe. Wait, don't intersectional feminists have a made-up word for that? What was it? Googly schmoogly? Biggity boomaloo? Oh yeah, now I remember. They call it white-splaining. You should really check your privilege, Hannah. Also, what kind of lunatic says that we should treat women like hoes? Snoop Dogg? Cat Williams? Can you think of anybody on earth who isn't a cartoonish caricature of a rapper or pimp? Can you think of anybody outside that category who actually subscribes to that ideology? No? You're completely full of shit then. Okay, good. Glad we're on the same page. Carry on with the femsplaining.
And really instill what it means to be a man, or what it means to be a woman, frankly. It means to be a good human and to treat others like you would want to be treated, to treat others equally and work for justice for all.
Justice? You use that word, but I don't think it means what you think it does. Your justice says that all men are inherently sexist and that they should live their lives in shame with the constant reminder that you're better than them. Your justice says women are helpless little snowflakes who need Big Daddy society to bend over backwards to fit your unrealistic idea of what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman. Ground control to Major Hannah. There are women who disagree with you. That's right. Not all women are feminists. In fact, in the US, only 18% of women identify as feminists. And the fact that you deny other women's agency and make up words like internalized misogyny to justify your worldview is both insulting and patronizing. You are basically saying, hey there, fellow woman, I see you're not a feminist. This isn't your conscious choice. You didn't independently decide not to be a feminist. No, that's absurd. No woman would actually decide not to be a feminist. Instead, it must be self-hatred and the brainwashing of the patriarchy that made you this way. After all, feminism is the only way to fight for true equality. If a man tried to say that to a woman about men's rights, he'd be burned at the stake like a witch. But somehow, because you're a woman, that gives you the right to be a shrill, condescending, self-righteous harpy. You don't believe in equality. You believe you should be treated as the grand high poobah of all creation, simply because you were born with a badge. It's not about women, it's not about their rights, it's about you. It's you that wants to be treated like a special snowflake. Not all women. Do go on though, your ignorance feeds me.
That's what it means to be a good man or a good woman. And I think that's what we really need to get at, right? We're talking about this like manhood box, right? This box that we put men in. This is what you can do. Like you hold a gun, you're not holding a Barbie.
Right.
Women are, cleaning the house. You go out and work. You're the breadwinner, right? Like daddy brings home the bacon, like that kind of stuff that we teach young boys that are so tied in with their masculinity, and we need to do better at that, because if we do just say like toxic men and good men, there's no gray area.
We're not just saying that, but I do not believe labels are bad. I believe labels are important, and you're not only labeling, you're still doing all of that work. But I think labels are important.
Yay! Another thing I agree with you on. I guess lightning can strike the same garbage heap twice. You're right. Boys have every right to play with Barbies, as girls have every right to play with army men. There's nothing inherently wrong with that. And I plan to let my children play with whatever toys they want. But it will be their choice and not mine what they play with. I won't push a narrative on them like you. People grow, and as they grow, they change. To grow, you have to want to improve. To change, you must put your own biases aside and let each human decide for themselves what works for them. And you must make an extra effort to do this with your kids. Sometimes they will stumble. Sometimes they will fall. Sometimes they will soar to such great heights that they leave you in their shadow. But you have to let them choose their own destiny. That's what it means to be a good parent and a good human being. You are not a god, Hannah. You don't inherently know what's best for everybody. You are simply another flawed human being living on a lonely speck in the vast cosmic dark. And the sooner you learn to accept that, the happier you'll be. No one should try to be perfect, because once you're perfect, there's no reason to try to do anything else, because you've already achieved everything. You're the pinnacle of your species. The thrill of not knowing you'll succeed is gone, and that's boring. Uncertainty is what makes the game of life fun. One more thing before I let you continue. I also completely agree with you about the whole men shouldn't have to be breadwinners argument. I don't think we have to obey strict gender roles. Being a provider doesn't interest me. I detest the very thought. I don't have what it takes to compete in the workplace. I'm skilled with words, but not much else. I'd be much happier staying at home and raising the next generation. I'm very organized, I'm very good with kids, and I can clean like a beast. Also, I'm learning to cook. I'm not very good, but I'm learning. It's what I can do to help out around the house. I'd be much happier and I'd be much better at being a house husband and house father than a breadwinner. And I'm 100% happy with that.
No, I hear what you're saying, but I think here and here there leaves no room for gray area, because there could be an amazing man who still, here and there chuckles at a joke, right? An inappropriate joke.
So he made a mistake, and in those moments he was toxic.
And yeah, I hear what you're saying. I would rather have more area between and be like, look, like this is what you were brought up in, and I understand that socialization plays a huge role in how we behave. Absolutely, right? And so what we need to do is recognize that and recognize the box that men have been put in and be like, you know what? We are going to promote a more healthy relationship and move forward from that. Because when you leave that spectrum and you leave that, not so black and white, you allow men who maybe had that moment to be like, oh, I fall within the spectrum. But if you just say toxic and not, the chances are the guy who does like the more innocuous stuff isn't gonna be like, well, I didn't rape somebody, so I'm not toxic. But if we allow the space and be like, this behavior is all unacceptable, but there's definitely a spectrum, it's easier to be like, oh, yeah, sometimes I do this, I'm not that bad, but sometimes I do this and I can be better at that. And I think that is what the core message of this was, and that's what really resonated with me.
Wrong, 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 wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. You're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong.
You keep saying that men laugh at jokes as if that's a bad thing. Here, I'll tell a mildly sexist joke that is still funny. Did you hear about the blonde who blew her job interview? Apparently, that wasn't all she blew. She starts next week. Now see that? See how I took a common stereotype and exaggerated it for comedy? That's how a sense of humor works. It's called being funny. It's called telling a joke. You really should get a sense of humor. Also, you're sort of right about the gray area, but not everything in that gray area is unacceptable. And it's certainly not all equal. Or are you arguing that the joke I just made is equal to rape? That's the problem with feminists. You are moral absolutists, just like fundamentalist Christians. There is no nuance here. And you people are just as crazy, if not more so. Feminists are like boxes of LSD-filled chocolate. You never know how crazy they are until you open the box. I call this theory Schrodinger's feminist. The theory states that a feminist is both crazy and sane until she opens her mouth and reveals one state of mind or the other. But keep digging your hole. Maybe one day you'll reach China.
I respect that. I feel totally differently. I feel like, because think about like how women are with that, the toxicity that does come with the way men are raised comes a ton of privilege. And I think that the fact that without worrying about how heavy the label feels, there are so many men who are just not like that, and who are understanding, and who are listening, and who are feminists themselves, and who treat women as equals, and who catch themselves, everyone makes mistakes, but who catch themselves or are willing to listen to others when they
But what you just said, let me call out what you just said, they catch themselves making mistakes.
Yeah.
And so I think part of that, this is not saying no men do things that are
saying
awful.
the label is bad, and I'm disagreeing with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think when you allow for more broader understanding of what's acceptable and what's not, people more easily can see that in themselves and be self-reflective about that and find change.
You bad. Now you've made me very, very, very. Forget it.
There you go again, Hannah. You are blaming men for making the mistake of not living up to your impossible standards for living. You say that men should be self-reflective? Again, I don't think that word means what you think it does. Self-reflection does not mean constantly punishing yourself for being a certain gender. It doesn't even necessarily mean changing yourself. It simply means looking inside yourself and accepting genuine mistakes that you've made. And it does not mean blaming yourself for imaginary wrongdoings such as mansplaining, manspreading, benevolent sexism, or any other made-up feminist buzzword. I like who I see in the mirror. Can you say the same? When you wake up and look in the mirror, do you like who you are? My point is that you're not the arbiter of what a man should be. You feminists always say a man can never understand what it feels like to be a woman. You say we should stop trying to explain what's wrong with your gender. Well, it goes both ways. Why aren't you trying to explain what's wrong with ours? It goes both ways. Why don't you take your own advice and stop telling us how to live? You don't know what it's like to be a man. You don't know my struggles. You don't know what I've had to go through in my life. So stop trying to tell me how to live. This entire video is a demonstration of your own entitlement, victim complex, hypocrisy, and privilege. Yes, you heard me right. Privilege. The fact that you get thunderous applause for your opinion while I will be demonized for mine, that's a sign of feminist privilege. You are the buzzkill that uses Anita Sarkeesian talking points to shame cosplayers at Comic-Con, and then turns right around and spazzes out when a man does exactly the same thing. You are what happens when the book 1984 hate fucks the movie Demolition Man. To call you a bleeding heart would be describing the wrong organ. I mean, seriously, there's a period joke here, but that's below me. Get it? Below me? Yeah, that was bad, I apologize. Anyway, I really despise you, Hannah. I loathe you. I can just imagine chopping off your limbs, ripping out your intestines, and riding you all the way down a snow-capped mountain like some sort of meat toboggan. I know it sounds gruesome, but just picture the image. It's such a beautiful image indeed. Gripping your entrails like the reins of Santa's sleigh, streaking through the fresh morning snow on a trail of bile and gore, as your eyes beg the same question as the terrified children in your wake. Why? This millennial crybaby makes me want to grab my fucking forget-me-stick. I can't have psychological scars if I beat the memories clean out of my head. You guys just go about your business. Meanwhile, I'll get a couple of codeine and large pizza with bacon and pineapple and prepare for my inevitable headache. I know, bacon and pineapple is heresy. However, consider this. At this point, I am desperate for anything that will get the hideous echoes of feminist whining out of my head before I give myself a lobotomy with a fucking sewing needle. Pizza makes everything better. Pizza is the universal healer. And B, I'm a grown-ass man, goddammit. I'll pick my own damn pizza toppings, thank you very much. Well, this is the end. And it seems I have a visitor. Oh look, it's Hannah. Well, hello, Hannah. Guess what time it is? That's right, it's meat toboggan time.
Don't you dare touch me! Stand back!
Hello, welcome to Jackass. I'm the guy who ate Steve-O, and this is human meat toboggan. Well, while Hannah gets acquainted with her new rung on the totem pole, why don't you guys like, comment, and subscribe? This was a retooling of my first episode. I hope y'all stayed till the end, and I hope you liked it better than the original. I thank all 15 of you for sticking with me this long. I'm the deputy of common sense. I dispense swift justice to those who aren't so swift. Now, bon nuit to you all.
It looks like the excitement of my artistic triumph is too much for Squidward. Oh well, back to the dump. To the dump, to the dump, to the dump, 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 to the dump, to the dump, to the dump, dump, dump.